Okay, hello everybody, what's up? It's Emily. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be unhauling some books. I'm going to be selling them on Pango Books. Before we get into the unhaul, I want to just talk a little bit about Pango Books. They're not sponsoring this video. For a long time, I have been wanting to do a book unhaul and I want to sell my books or donate them. I don't want to throw them out. I think that's a total waste. In my physical TBR video, I gave a lot of statistics about how much the book industry contributes to climate change. Any books that I'm getting rid of, I am doing so consciously. So obviously I'm going to try to sell them first. And then if a few months go by and there's still some left, I will find a place to donate and I'll share with you along the way kind of the places that I find that are good. So I came across Pango Books because I follow Haley Barber on Instagram and YouTube. She's like one of the first booktubers that I followed, and it seems like a really cool place to just sell some books. There's a lot of great deals on Pango Books, so I will leave the link to my store down below. Every book that I talk about here will be listed on my Pango Books, so give it a look-see. I've listed everything like on the lower end, so check it out. So it's the new year. I've been wanting to do a book unhaul for a while now. I don't have the most space on my bookshelves and I don't like clutter, and so the books that I'm getting rid of today aren't even necessarily books that like I didn't like or didn't enjoy. They're just books that like I don't either like connect to as much at this point in my reading journey. Like I'm just going in a different direction, if that makes sense. I'm excited to be making space for new books. I've really been into fantasy recently, and so you'll notice that like none of these books are fantasy books. So I'm just trying to make a little room for some more fantasy books, some more series that I've been a little bit more attached to, and dehaul these books that I pretty much enjoyed all these books, but I'm probably not going to read them again and I want someone else to enjoy them. I want to make more space on my bookshelf for like fantasy and series and stuff. I will at one point do a new updated tour of my bookshelves. I basically have one main bookshelf, I have a smaller bookshelf, and then I have my TBR cart. But as I'm unhauling stuff and kind of bringing in some new books, the bookshelves just change so much and so frequently that I kind of want to like settle into what I'm hoping the current state of this bookshelf is like growing to be, and then I'll do another tour. So today is just going to be about sharing the books that I've unhauled as I declutter my bookshelves, and then I will make another video at some point in the near future with kind of like my new bookshelf display. So stay tuned for that at some point soon. I will say also too, a lot of these books are books that I read when I first started getting back into reading. They're fast paced on the shorter side. So if you're either looking to get back into reading or maybe you're like in a reading slump, these books are majority kind of for that purpose. I'm excited. I think this is a good stack. So let's get into it. I am going to be sharing as I go through each book what the average rating on Goodreads is. For example, like I have Love and Other Words on this unhaul, and like that is a massively loved book. It's just not one that I connected to. So rather than like give my personal ratings and deter you away from the book, I'll just give like the average rating on Goodreads so you kind of have a more holistic idea of like what the general consensus is on each book. Yeah, let's get into it. The first book is Me Before You. I've had this book for so long. I read it I think a while ago. It's basically about this girl, Louisa, who needs a job, and she gets a job working as kind of like the caretaker of this young man who is wheelchair bound after an accident, and it's obviously romance, and it was made into a movie with Emilia Clarke. Oh, it's actually a series. There's 3 books to the series. The average rating is 4.26. People love this book. Like if you're looking for a good, sweet, sensitive, tearjerker romance, I think this is definitely the book for you. Next we have Where the Crawdads Sing. It was a very big book, maybe like a year and a half ago. It was in Reese's book club, as you could see from the cover here. Another pretty highly rated book. This book was rated 4.39 average rating on Goodreads. So it's definitely a beloved book. It's not a story that I super click to, but the writing is very beautiful. It's about this like marsh girl, and it kind of like goes between time periods. I think there's like a murder that they're investigating that like she might be linked to. It's an important read. It's just not one that like I super clicked to. Next we have Dear John by Nicholas Sparks. I love me some Nicholas Sparks. I love a good Nicholas Sparks romance. This one I've also had for like a really long time. I read it a long time ago. It has a 4.04 rating on Goodreads. Kind of like similar to Me Before You if you're looking for a tearjerker romance. I mean, any Nicholas Sparks is a great book. Next we have 28 Summers by Ellen Hildebrand. I, at a certain point in my life, was like, I'm going to buy all of the Ellen Hildebrand books because they're so beautiful. They all are like so summery, but I've only read 2 of them so far, and I just don't think my bookshelf has room to like build on my Ellen Hildebrand collection. Not to say I'm not going to like read more of her books, but I'm not looking to get more of her books on my bookshelf, so I don't really feel the need to like keep my current books on the bookshelf of hers. This has a 4.2 rating on Goodreads. It's a great summer read, but I also read it in, I read a lot of summer reads in winter just to like escape from the cold New York City winter. It's a pretty bittersweet read. It's about, how do I explain what this is about? It's about this woman, Mallory, who inherited a beachfront cottage from her aunt in 1993. She meets this guy, Jake McLeod, and they kind of like form a bond. I don't know if it actually goes back and forth between time periods, but it opens when her son, Link, receives deathbed instructions to call a number on a slip of paper, which belongs to Jake, this guy that like she met back in the 90s. Bit of a tearjerker. Very snug. Very snug. Uncut gems. My next one is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren with this very cute new cover. The average Goodreads rating is 4.28. This is a beloved book. Like everybody loves this book. It goes back and forth between 2 time periods when these 2 characters meet when they're teenagers and then like when they're adults. Told in alternating timelines between then and now, teenage Elliot and Macy grow from friends to much more, spending weekends and lazy summers together in a house outside San Francisco, devouring books, sharing favorite words, and talking through their growing pains and triumphs. As adults, they've become strangers to one another until their chance reunion. So like, I guess second chance romance is the theme. Next, we have another book by Christina Lauren called The Unhoneymooners. This one has a 3.92 rating on Goodreads, so less than Love in Other Words, but I actually personally enjoyed this one more. It's about this girl, Olive, who is a twin, and her sister's getting married, and like her sister has like the perfect life, and like Olive is just like the unlucky twin. At her sister's wedding, there was some food, it might have been like the fish or something. Everyone who ate it got sick, including her sister and her sister's new husband. And so her and her sister's husband's brother, who she like has like an enemy type relationship with, end up going on the honeymoon because like they can't cancel the trip, so they like gift the trip to them, and they don't like each other, so it's kind of like an enemies to lovers type thing. It's a really great like beach read, or again like winter escape read. Okay, next I have 3 Colleen Hoover books. I only have 3 Colleen Hoover books on my bookshelf. They are not my favorite 3 Colleen Hoover books by any means, and I've given away like all of the ones that I liked most, so I'm just like, I don't need the ones that aren't my favorite on the bookshelf. And I've also just like read most of her books, and I don't think I'm gonna read any more or like do any rereads of her books, except Reminders of Him. I love that book, but I gave it to my mom. It's still in the family. So yeah, I just don't feel the need to like keep these 3 books on my bookshelf. The first one is Regretting You. This one has a 4.15 rating on Goodreads. There's some romance, but it's also kind of like a mother-daughter story. It's about this woman, Morgan, and her 16-year-old daughter, Clara. Yeah, I think it goes back and forth between definitely their perspectives and possibly time periods. I kind of forget. They have trouble coexisting. Then there's this big tragedy that happens that can either bring them closer together or tear them further apart. If you are just getting really like into reading, or you haven't read a lot of Colleen Hoover, I would definitely recommend reading her. Like, I think she's like an important part of the reading resurgence canon. I've just kind of like read through all of the books that like I've really wanted to read by her, so I just don't feel the need to keep them on my bookshelf. Okay, next by her, we have November 9th, which has a 4.15 rating on Goodreads. I really love this book as well. It's about this girl, Fallon, who meets Ben. He's an aspiring novelist. They meet on November 9th, and then every day for the next, I think, 6 years, they make a pact to meet every November 9th. They don't see each other any other day of the year. So it's like, can Ben's relationship with Fallon and simultaneously his novel be considered a love story if it ends in heartbreak? It says it on the back of this book. It has the ultimate plot twist. This is another great book that like if you haven't read a lot of Colleen Hoover, or if you've just read like It Ends With Us and like Verity, you know, whatever, Ugly Love, like the more popular ones, like this one is really good and I definitely recommend it. And then my last Colleen Hoover book that I am unhauling is Confess. This one has a 4.11 rating on Goodreads. These books are rated a lot higher on Goodreads than I thought. I always think on Goodreads, it's like if it's rated higher than a 4-star and like it's on my list and I'm thinking about reading it, above a 4-star average rating on Goodreads always kind of like solidifies it. The stack is actually like doing pretty well, I think. Auburn Reed has lost everything important to her in her fight to rebuild her shattered life. She has her goals in sight and there is no room for mistakes, but when she walks into a Dallas art studio in search of a job, she doesn't expect to find a deep attraction to the artist who works there, Owen. Autumn takes a chance. For once, she puts her heart in control, only to discover that Owen is keeping a major secret from coming out. The magnitude of his past threatens to destroy everything Auburn loves most. The only way to get her life back on track is to cut Owen out of it. To save the relationship, all Owen needs to do is confess. But in this case, the confession could be much more destructive than the actual sin. This one was a good one. This one was one of those books I picked up. I was like, I haven't heard anything about this book and was so pleasantly surprised by the experience reading it. I breeze through her books. They are so quick. Okay, this next book is Rebecca Makkai, I Have Some Questions for You, which is actually signed. I purchased this from McNally Jackson, so it's definitely like an authentic signature. She was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for another book. This has an average rating of 3.63, so like not the absolute highest, but it is signed and she is a Pulitzer finalist for her other book. Yeah, this is the one book. I obviously want to sell these books, and if you're into this author, like you might want to buy it, but this is the one book that I'm going to say, like, I do not recommend reading this book at all. I know I'm supposed to be selling these, but like I would read other thrillers before I would read this, just because you don't really get answers. Like there's a lot of questions, but there's not a lot of answers, and I like my thrillers to be answered, you know what I mean? But it's signed. Next, we have You're Invited, which has a 3.52 rating on Goodreads. I really enjoyed this book. It's like a thriller about this like girl who I think her like former best friend is getting married. The husband or fiance is her ex-boyfriend. So she's like, I'm stopping this wedding at all costs. Rumors about her start coming up at the wedding weekend or the wedding week. The bride is presumed dead by the end of the wedding, and so she's definitely like a prime suspect. I actually really enjoyed like where this book headed and like what happened at the end of it, and I would recommend it. It's like it's cool because it's like a nice kind of like vacation read, but it's also a thriller. It's kind of like White Lotus in that way. It's like you get that beautiful setting, but it's also like a murder mystery. Next, we have Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. This has a 3.78 average rating on Goodreads. This has a really fun twist at the end. It's basically And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. It's like a variation of that, where this girl goes to her family's beach house for the weekend or something. They all start dying one by one. Really cool plot twist at the end. Alice Feeney has like some other really cool thrillers, so like if you've also read some of her other stuff, I definitely recommend giving this one a try. Next, we have Darling Girl. This is kind of like a Peter Pan. Is it a prequel? I read this a while ago. It's like a reimagining of Peter Pan with like the granddaughter of Wendy. I'm a huge Peter Pan fan because I played Wendy when I was like 14 and it was the first big part that I had. If you're a fan of Peter Pan or of just like generally kind of like riffing on famous stories, I would definitely give this a read. Next, we have Lucy Foley, The Paris Apartment. This one has a 3.67 average rating on Goodreads. She has some other books out, The Guest List and I think The Hunting Party. So if you read those and you like them, maybe check this out. It's another murder mystery. Meet the residents of number 12 Rue des Amants, a beautiful old apartment building in the City of Light. The socialite, the nice guy, the alcoholic, the girl on the verge, concierge. Everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everyone knows something they're not telling. See you in Paris. Then we have Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins. This is like a really, really quick read. It has an average rating of 3.57 on Goodreads. It's one of the first books I read when I was getting back into reading, and it went by very quickly. It's about these like 20-somethings that go to this beautiful island on a free-spirited journey, sun-drenched days, intoxicating nights, but it becomes clear that the group is more cut off from civilization than they thought, and it starts to feel like the island is closing in, sending them on a dangerous spiral of discovery. One person goes missing and another person turns up dead, so the remaining friends are like, what's going on? It's kind of giving like Triangle of Sadness, but like not nearly as like politically charged or complex. And then the last book we have is Romantic Comedy. This one has a 3.69 rating on Goodreads. This book is broken up into 3 chapters. The first chapter is a little slow, but the second two pick up a lot, and I connected to the characters a lot more in the second two. It's basically about this like SNL type show with this writer who's a woman, and her friend basically is this like quote average looking guy who gets with this like really famous, beautiful young movie star or something, movie star or pop star. This woman writer is just like, that would never happen the other way around. You know, an average looking woman would never get like a young, hot pop star guy, which as a premise I think is like a little like reductive, but whatever. And so this guy comes in who is like a famous singer. The first chapter is literally just like walking through from like Monday to Sunday in timestamps, like what happens. It flows more after that. That is the Unhaul. Pango Books is super easy. Again, I will leave the link down below. I'm sure I will also be unhauling other books in the future at some point, so I'll definitely update you guys when more books are on there. If you're looking for like quicker updates, check out my Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. My next video is going to be this Friday, as usual. I upload Tuesdays and Fridays. Stay tuned for that. I am doing something new, which is fun. I don't think anyone has ever done it on BookTube before. We're going new. We're going Emily Keefe YouTube channel exclusive video. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, I hope everyone's having a great start to their new year, maybe getting a little inspo to declutter yourselves. I'm having an amazing reading month as well. Like, I'm so excited to share my January roundup with you. I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye.